Okay, greetings and welcome to Conflict Radio. Today is April 8th, 2021. We've got Sev Tok and Jared Murphy with us, though it was a bit, I guess, difficult to get everything set up. It was a little odd, but we are here. Sev Tok is on a little bit of a delay, so we just understand that, and we're going to have to ask her questions and just be quiet and wait for her to answer for a second. Okay, Sev?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, awesome. So we've got a few people in the chat room: Barry, Lee Bodge, the Zepp, Hugh Godarn, Rob, Lee Palace. You guys, Barry. Hope everybody is okay. Jared Murphy is also joining us. Jared, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's so fun to be having this chat today. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. And today our guest is Sev Tok. Sev was born in Istanbul, Turkey, and came to the U.S. as a little girl. Growing up in the Washington, D.C. VA suburbs, she began having supernatural experiences and ET contact at a very young age, which continues today. Spending a lifetime refusing to accept the reality of these events, she came out 3 years ago, prompted by her face-to-face contact with a Gray who burned 2 X marks into her lower back. Her book expresses her journey from denial to acceptance about her ET contact and how this transformation has changed her life for the better. She helps experiencers around the world understand and process their ET contact, encouraging them to be aware of the profound transformation these experiences potentially hold for them. Sev, how are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing really well. I'm very happy to be with you and your listeners.
Well, we definitely want to say thank you for coming on the show. We've been trying to get you as a guest for quite some time, and we finally got it nailed down to today. And minus all of these problems, it seems like the universe doesn't really want us talking to each other.
I don't agree with that.
Well, we got you here now. You want to tell everybody briefly who you are, or what your story is, and a little bit about your book, and we'll get into some of your experiences.
Okay. I have been a lifelong experiencer and in denial until 2017, where I had an experience here on the inner banks of North Carolina, where I live, that made it clear to me that I can't hide or deny it anymore. I came face to face with Grays, and they put 2 red X marks on my tush, actually. One night was the left cheek, and then 9 days later was the right cheek. And this just set me spinning, really. The second X flipped my world. I finally had to face the fact that my experiences were not dreams, they were not fantasies, I wasn't making them up. The excuses I tried to make for all the weird things that were on my body, the weird cuts, the weird dots, I could no longer make excuses anymore, and I had to admit it was real. And in admitting that, then all of a sudden I didn't know who I was or what was real anymore. Why am I communicating with these Grays? What do they want from me? I was very scared and very angry, because back then I thought the Grays were bad, and I thought they were evil, and I thought they were abusing me. Now I have a much different viewpoint. I believe that they were actually helping me very much. And in this journey of this acceptance, I had to face a lot of truths about myself, the biggest truth being my denial of ET contact. And I wanted to face this head on and work through it, so I can express the most authentic version of myself that I possibly can. I believe in expressing one's authenticity. That's how one finds fulfillment and peace and a very enjoyable life. So I made myself move through this acceptance. In the beginning, it was very difficult. And then I wrote the book, and then right after the book debuted on Amazon, I was asked to be a speaker at AlienCon in Baltimore in 2018. and I came out there. And it was cool for me because I had a lot of experiences in Baltimore. And it was at that conference, so many people came up to me and told me about their own ET contact, their own ET experiences. And they said, I've never told anyone this before. And that's when I realized I want to help experiencers. So I do. I help experiencers around the world. If you've had an experience that you want to tell me or that you need help understanding, you can just contact me through my website, tell me your story. It's confidential, and I'll respond and help you through it. Because if this aspect of your life isn't faced, it will manifest as difficulties in your reality. That's exactly what happened to me. And if you don't transform the fear into gratitude or at least acceptance, that energy manifests negatively in your reality and in your life. So I want to help experiencers understand this was not a fluke. This was not an accident. There's a very good reason you were contacted. And what is that reason? And how can your experience benefit your life, not hinder your life?
All right. So, Jared, are you there? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Do you have
Yes, I
a
am.
fan on?
You know what? That's so interesting. That's the fan on the computer. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
I got a loud ass fan.
I can't hear it now. It
Oh,
went
well,
away.
maybe it's because I'm talking and it cut it out. But the monitor is. Let me move the mic and let's see if the mic that would be quite interesting. If the mic is picking that up, I'm going to be super shocked. So
That's a pretty good fan.
That's so odd. Can you hear it now?
No. It sounds a lot better, so let's move on. I want to give a shout out to Alien Girl and Wreaking Havoc. If you guys have any questions that you want to ask Sev Tok, just put them in the chat and we'll ask away. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not. And Jared, we've been studying up on Sev Tok for the last couple days, exchanging videos back and forth and ideas and things that we had. What was the number one question you've had going into this interview?
Oh boy, is it Istanbul or Constantinople? Huh? Just I had to get that in there. I'm so sorry, but that just dates me and outs me. And huh?
I'm sure she's heard that before. Come on.
Yeah, you haven't heard that too much, right? Do you want to punch me yet? No. So, I have a number of serious questions, although I think that's one that everyone does want to know. But I think that the biggest question, if we're going to start with a big topic, I heard you talk about the first time you gave a reading, and you didn't know how that was. I remember you saying you were, you didn't know what you were going to expect or not, or how it was going to go. I'm wondering, not an approximation of how many readings you've done, but I'm wondering, how have readings for you, or how has this experience changed from not just it dealing with it with yourself out loud and coming to terms with it, but how have readings changed either with your clients or with repeat clients, or is there an adjustment that's happened, something that you weren't expecting?
An adjustment in the readings because of my ET contact, you mean?
Yeah, so more of like, you didn't know, I guess based on your description of the first one that you did, have they changed in any complexity over the time that you've been doing this now?
Yes, that's a really good question. I like that. I've been doing soul sessions. In the beginning, I called them soul purpose readings, but now they're called soul sessions, and I've been doing them for 11 years. I've done thousands, and I have clients around the world. And yes, they have gotten deeper and deeper and deeper because the method, for lack of a better word, of how the information comes to me is through a quantum process. And We're all quantum beings, and we have, I like to call them our quantum muscles, and they've atrophied in a lot of us. And as we practice our quantum abilities, which are also known as paranormal abilities, we strengthen those muscles so we hear, feel, and see interdimensional information even better.
So, Mike, how far do you want me to go right now? Or are you?
Go ahead.
You got a question?
Go ahead.
Well, so in the time that you've been spending doing this with other people, have you encountered any of these? I mean, you described, on one hand, I'd feel like we should give our listeners a higher overview of your general, not just services and what's happened, but I know it gets repetitive. I do it, for my book, Not Aliens, and it's really fun because it's broad subjects about the vast ancient humans and/or people living on this planet and all the science and everything. And there's lots of fun with it. But the interest that I have right now is I wanted to see if it wouldn't be possible to, however you want to work in your history with the following question, which is there people that you have done readings for over this time? Are there people that you recognize in your travels or dimensional experiences? Is there anyone that are repeat or people that show up in your experiences out of what would normally be explainable?
My ET experiences, have there any been beings that have shown up in my ET experiences that are unexplainable, or beings that have shown up in my readings? I'm sorry, I didn't get that clear.
Yeah, the question is whether or not you're hearing. I wanted to know if any of those beings that are showing up, are you recognizing any of those individuals within people you do readings, or has anyone approached you and described the same exact being?
All kinds of beings show up in the readings, sometimes dead loved ones, spirit guides, energies from past lives. There's just so many different types of beings. And there have been, with some people, definitely an ET energy. And if there is, I tell them. They always know. It's not surprising. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. It's such an interesting I feel like part of your early history, at least as you've described on other shows, is that this isn't something you talked about for a long time, correct?
That's right.
So I'm wondering, now that you're not only dealing with that and talking about it and meeting other people, and like you said, inviting others' experiences, I'm wondering if if the beings and the experiences you're having are at all, individuals, if they're within our vicinity, that are showing up to specifically other people that you're recognizing some of those beings. So I just, it's a very, the topic is definitely changing.
Okay, I think why I wasn't understanding was there's a distinction between my clients that I give readings to and then the experiences that I talk to, which is all free. So you're talking about the experiences around the world that I've been talking with, not necessarily the people that I give soul sessions with.
Yeah, so it's more of,
okay.
I'm of the belief that there are greater intelligences or more advanced humans that have been on this planet for the entire period of its known existence. So I do think that more people are aware. The more that it's out and not internalized, the more people recognize this and speak about it. I kind of feel like there's a point where we're going to reach an apex of, I recognize this, not just a species or an ancient human or some sort of advanced race. I think we're going to start recognizing the individuals, maybe, but not the goal. Just, I feel like there's enough dialogue out there now and enough people who are actually experiencing this phenomena that I think at some point it's going to be. I feel like we're in the 80s without the internet identifying people right now.
Mm-hmm. Uh, there are, in speaking with the experiences around the world, there are certain beings that seem to come up over and over and over again. For instance, the mantids or the mantis beings, the grays, tall, medium, and short. Some grays are naked, some grays have robes. There's also robed entities where people really can't see their faces. They don't know if they're mantis or alien, or excuse me, gray. And there's also a light being, and sometimes, and I've seen different types of light beings. And there's a light being that people have seen that's bluish in color. It's gorgeous. It's like a kaleidoscope of blues and silvers. I've seen that being. I actually call them the blues. Other people have seen them too. And also another light being that I and other experiencers have seen. In fact, I'm a field investigator for MUFON for North Carolina, and I just had a case of a young man here in North Carolina who was going to work very early in the morning. I don't think it was even 5 o'clock yet. He was just about the only one on the road, and this big triangular craft just flew right over him, super silent, not making a sound, and it had unusual lights. So he reported the case to MUFON. I was given the case, and I interviewed him. And a week after he saw that, a being entered his home. He was asleep on his couch. He woke up, and there's this being, which is a light being. It's tall and slender. It's see-through, and it just feels like it's made out of light or stars. A lot of people describe it as starry. And this being was holding a baby, just like itself, a light being, starry. And the witness had just had a baby, or his girlfriend did. And I asked him if he thought there was some correlation between his baby and this alien baby that was being walked over to him. And this being and the baby kept walking closer and closer and closer and closer, and then he doesn't remember anything else. He knows about the hybridization program. He wonders if he's a part of it. He wonders if his baby is a part of it. Doesn't know for sure. But that curiosity and that wonderment has been there for years with him. He's experienced many times. So sometimes I hear about beings that I had never heard about or described before, but there are a few of these beings that I just described that seem to come up in the stories again and again and again.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here a second. I want to say thank you to Spartan for the super chat. I also want to say hi to Antonio and Tony for joining us. Suburbanoid Misfit Sev Tok says, just wanted to share, one time I was meditating in the bath with crystals, and I saw 3 alien beings in my mind's eye huddled around a blue glowing crystal looking back at me. Now, is there any reports of these beings using crystals in some kind of way?
Oh, yes. In fact, I was just speaking with an experiencer in California, and he drew a picture of a gray that was wearing a robe, and it was carrying this wand. And I have heard from several experiencers describe a wand that a gray is carrying. And it's thin, it's long, and sometimes they describe it as having a crystal at the end.
Was it blue?
I don't recall the colors.
Now, that's pretty interesting. So I wanted to ask you about the light beings. Do they seem like the light beings are more interdimensional than the other ones?
That's a good question about the interdimensional aspect. Yes, the blues that came into my living room in the middle of the day and talked to me, they're very, very, very hard to draw because they're constantly moving and they're see-through. And there are beings that are very 3D. For instance, the tiny grays, the little grays that are more like they're here to pick up evidence, and they're more robotic, and they're not as sentient as the other grays or as humans. They're a hybrid of a gray. That's what was explained to me. I have experiences and memories involving military men. They seem to be military men in these offices, and they had told me that the smallest grays are hybrids of the middle-sized grays, who are hybrids of the original grays. And did I just get off track of your question?
No, I don't think so. I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
It seems like there's. I mean, I definitely believe in different dimensions, and there's all kinds of things going on right in front of us that we just can't see because our eyes and our brain aren't capable of seeing it. Is that what you think?
Absolutely. Most ET contact happens in this interdimensional fashion. Most ET contact does not happen in a 3D fashion. You're driving down the road, or you're fishing, or you're in the woods. Most ET contact is in an interdimensional fashion. And that is why millions of people are having contact and don't know it, because they think, if they remember the experience, they think it's a dream, or they just chalk it up to a fantasy or an imagination, because the brain doesn't know what to call that experience. It's a real experience. But socially and societally, we've been trained to call that kind of experience a dream, and it's not real. And that is not good. That really makes us unable to process what's happening, and some people have a very, very difficult time in their lives because they can't process this. They know it's not a dream, they know it's real, but they don't have proof other than the feelings that they have within themselves that prove to themselves that they're real. Also, sometimes experiencers are given information that they've never known before, and that's further validity, or they're left with marks on their bodies, and that's even further validity. But if they don't have a mark and they aren't given new information, these experiences in the multi-dimensions, they feel dreamy, and I call it the blur space, where the dimensions are blurring. So as you're coming out of your 3D plus experience, and you're entering the full 3D consciousness, there's this blurring of those dimensions, and that experience feels dreamy, but it's real.
Well, that's fascinating. Jared, do you have anything?
Yeah. Is there anything new that you've been focusing on just even recently, even in the last few weeks?
Oh, well, you must be psychic. Yes. Actually, I've just been given 2 wonderful opportunities. I just signed a contract today to be in an episode of an 8-part docuseries on Canadian television. And I also was asked to be part of an independent documentary, all of them having to do with experiencers and UAP, UFO research. Besides that, I'm going to concentrate much more on my YouTube channel and make more videos. And it's time to start another book, but I keep changing my mind about what I want to write about. There's so many things to write about. I haven't been able to pinpoint it. Every time I think I know what I'm going to write about, I change my mind. And those are the things that I'm concentrating on and that have really occupied my mind in the past couple weeks.
All right. See, that's congratulations.
Thank you.
And just so everybody knows, Sev's YouTube channel is called Alien Spirit TV with Sev. You can find her on YouTube. The link is in the description box below, so go give that a check out. There's some pretty cool videos on there. Now, Barry says, I have heard that the Greys have a particular smell. What can you say about the smell of the aliens, Sev?
I have heard experiencers say that. I do not recall a smell. I can only talk about what I've experienced. I have not. Experiencers say that there's a smell, but at the same time, when I ask them to describe it, they really can't. They don't know how to describe it. Well, let me take that back. Hold on. I have heard an experience of, the smell of wet cardboard. I have heard that.
Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about why these alien species are trying to... Why are they trying to mix the species between alien and human so much? I mean, I get it. It's a curious science experiment. I could just imagine what they're doing here on planet Earth with humans and various animals and different animals and all of the weird mixing that's probably going on here. Why do you think that the aliens are doing it? And is it all of the aliens, or is it just a certain kind?
Well, I can only talk about my personal experience with the Greys in Roswell, New Mexico, and in Baltimore, Maryland. So when I was in Roswell, New Mexico in 2016, I had an experience with the Greys, and they gave me information about the hybridization program. And they said it's happening between humans and the Greys, and the Greys are doing this program because their race is dying out. And the reason their race is dying out is because they lost empathy, the ability to express sympathy. And if you can't do that, your race is going to die out. And so in hopes of saving their race, they're hybridizing with human beings and millions of human beings, men and women. And for the most part, the beings that they're choosing to hybridize with have either had a history of this in their family and are also people who seem to have higher than normal paranormal abilities, and also people who are very loving, kind, sympathetic, empathetic. For the most part, there are exceptions.
So basically you're saying...
As far as other beings...
I'm sorry, I'll just go ahead. You're basically saying that the Vulcans from Star Trek can't exist because they don't have empathy?
I don't know anything about the Vulcans. I cannot talk about them. I can just tell you what the Greys told me.
All right. So, it seems... Do you think that they're populating an entire planet somewhere else with the hybrids?
Well, what I was told is that they have billions of these embryos, and that they're kind of just most of them are being kept in that state. And if we annihilate ourselves on this planet, then those embryos will reseed this planet. But that's a big if, because we're not destined definitely in that direction, and it's not too late to save ourselves. I also wonder about the hybridization program that involves humans and ETs, government programs or maybe other military programs. I have had experiences where I was healing hybrid babies that were very, very sick, and there was a human male doctor next to me and a human female nurse next to me. So I don't know the answer to all these questions, I'm also asking questions myself. Is there a separate hybridization program with human beings that are trying to hybridize as well, and maybe are not as successful because they're not as knowledgeable scientifically? So these hybrid children are coming out very sickly. These babies that they showed me were vomiting blood. I have the gut feeling that there's lots of different types of hybridization programs. If there was one that concerned with the military or humans or any other group, I find that a little disturbing. I've seen it, but I'm not quite sure what I was experiencing, what I was seeing. Am I involved in two different hybridization programs? I don't know.
Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Now, Spartan wants to know about birthmarks, not scars, but birthmarks that abductees have.
Okay, I have not come across, no one has contacted me so far about birthmarks. I can tell you birthmarks often are marks from another life that we're having. We call them past lives, but quantum physics says there's no past, present, or future. Everything is happening now. So our past lives are really happening concurrently right now. And we're all having these multiple consciousnesses. I have had clients where I have told them about a past life. Maybe they've had a stabbing somewhere, or something traumatic happened in a certain part of their body, and then they'll tell me, well, that's exactly where I have a mark, or that's exactly where I have a birthmark. So there's that too.
Okay. All right, Jared, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I want to go back to the part where they're not breeding anymore. Is it that they're not breeding, or have you ever asked the question, why are they not just doing it?
Why do you say they're not doing it?
Well, I would think that if they were advanced enough to create and blend humans, that they would be able to still breed. So I'm wondering if it's more of a choice thing.
I don't know.
I mean, it was a big question for me.
As far as I know, as far as I know, it hasn't ended.
So when they, have you been able to, like, is there a point where you can, I don't know, ask more questions when you interact, or is it,
Oh, that is such a good question. That is such a good question, because what happens often is when we are in the actual act of interacting with an ET, often there's just this state of disbelief and shock. Many experiencers say the same thing. You'll ask an experiencer, well, why didn't you ask him this, or why didn't you ask him that? And they just look at you blankly like, I don't know. And one reason could be there was no need to ask because we already knew. Another could be, well, we couldn't ask because we were just still trying to believe that we're face to face with an ET. Some people are aware enough that they can ask questions. So one thing that I do urge my experiencers who have continuous contact is to practice to be very present and to feel safe and to start interacting with the being. There's actually, from the experiencers that have contacted me from around the world, most of them don't interact because they really are either freaked out or they really already know the answer. For instance, someone had asked me, what did they ask me? It was something like, well, when you were talking to them, did you ask them where they're from? And I said no. because when I was talking with them, it felt like I was home. And you don't go home and then ask, the people there, where are you from? You know where they're from. So there's that is going on in the experience. There's just this knowing. Then when you pop out of it and you're in this 3D consciousness, things don't really make a lot of sense. And then we start, our brain starts to take over logically, like we should have asked this question, we should have asked that question, why didn't we do this, why didn't we do that? But it's not a 3D experience. There's other things going on that we can't even use words to explain.
Have you learned anything from the people, of the people that you've been working with or the experiencers that you've encountered, is there anything that has actually surprised you about their experiences? I know that sounds like a out of place, out of time question, but you get what I'm implying.
There have been a couple of surprises. I recently talked with a gentleman who came face to face with a gray right next to his bed, and he was so shocked that he claimed that he punched it and hit it. And I don't hear a lot of violent behavior towards these ETs. Every now and then I hear it. It's actually not that common. And so my response is, well, why did you have such a violent response? There is a violent theme that is running through you, and we need to investigate this. Not everyone punches a gray when they see it. So that has to do more with the energy within the human. We all radiate energy, and the energy that we radiate is determined by our minds, what we think about ourselves, the world, who we are. And the energy that we radiate, that's how we align with the people, the places, the situations, the events in our lives. So if we take a look at our 3D reality and look at our friends in our 3D reality, they're there because they're aligned with the energy that we're exuding. This happens also in the multi-dimensions. So when I teach people to make contact, I first talk a lot about what is the energy that you're exuding, what are the basic core beliefs about yourself and how the world operates. Because if you're a negative, fearful person who is sending out the vibe of victimization, which is what I used to do and which is what a lot of people still do, you will align with beings of that lower frequency. And when you align with beings of a lower frequency, we like to label them as scary or bad. And they're not necessarily those things, but they make us uncomfortable. So it's very important to really look inside yourself. If you want to make contact with other beings, it's really crucial. What's the energy you are exuding? If you're exuding a loving, open, kind energy, chances are you're going to align with that type of being and your experience is going to be pleasant. But if you are exuding a victim vibe or a negative vibe or a hate vibe or a fear vibe, you're going to be aligning with not only entities of a similar vibe, but human beings too. So who you make friends with here, that the same quality of friend that you make here is going to be the same quality of friend that you make in the inner dimensions. So this is why self-introspection is really important. Whether you want to talk to ETs or not, it's very important.
Do you think that there's any group that's more interested than another in your experience with Earth?
I don't know, because there's so many different beings out there. It's unlimited. There's unlimited amount of dimensions with an unlimited amount of consciousnesses within those dimensions. So I don't know.
Wow, that's fascinating. That comment you just made right there, that's really interesting way of looking at things. You know, I think there's so many different dimensions. I think there's hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yes, I've been told it's indefinite.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Jared,
Yeah.
what do you think?
In reference to,
The different dimensions.
well, it's very likely that we don't live in a one-dimensional universe at all. The question is always, are we experiencing things from, are we seeing and experiencing things from, are they dimensional, or are they genetic memories? Are they things that some people described as spiritual or paranormal? And in reality, are you activating higher functions of the human body, and you're connecting back to the planet, animals, each other, abilities that I've described, in the past, synesthesias, where we connect all five senses, but we can connect to other people
Yeah.
and other things. Are we getting, my big analogy is the blinky board. You bang on the left, you get an orange light, you bang on the right, you get a red light, and somebody comes along 1,000 years later and says, why are you banging on the control panel of a 747? You're getting a response, but you're not actually understanding. You've mystified, you've deified, the response, and it's a correct yes. If you bang on the left, you get the orange blinky light. If you bang on the right, you get the red one. But that's not what the control panel to the 747 does. And so it can be a legitimate response. And so I think we are still personally, I feel like we're too infantile in our understanding of the true human capabilities. I always describe the planet as based on the evidences in the ground of a very priorly advanced human race. My opinion is that there is much higher functions to the human experience and the planet, and as it was once engineered and terraformed, that I think our experience now is a safe-moded version. And we bang a lot on the blinky board, and we have very magical ideas or responses, or we've mystified, deified, religified, just whatever. We've made it into this blinky board, and we're getting responses that are even within the spectrum of a positive for, like, well, we wanted this to have this response, and it's in the spectrum of it, but it's not really the correct use, or so as far as interdimensional, I mean, are they interdimensional? Are they really just very advanced beings that are living here, that have always lived here? Are they us? That's the question. And if you're a highly advanced human being, human or otherwise, and you don't want to identify yourself to us, you can say whatever you want. You don't have to say who you are. You don't have to identify. It's need to know information only. I mean, I think, we listened to one of your interviews, and I remember you talking about, how violent would the response be if the revelation was, look, yeah, we've been here for millions of years, and yeah, we sort of like unplugged this one device, and we accidentally melted the ice caps. We're really sorry about devastating you guys a few million years ago. That was Bill's fault, and we could have fixed it probably better and faster, but we're talking to you now.
It's definitely interesting stuff to think about. Sev, Antonio wants to know: do the Greys use?
Yes. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and finish. Antonio wants to know: do the Greys use green laser lights, and do they come up from the floor? Like would they come up from the ground through a floor? I mean, they do have some kind of energizer, right?
Yeah, yes. Okay, that's a really good question, because often lights and laser type lights are described with a variety of different ETs, including the Greys. Often there's like a scanning light that goes up and down the body. I've seen that. And these lights can come from what the experiences have told me. They come from a variety of different directions. They can come from the floor, they can come from the ceiling, they can come from outside of the window. And also, there's quite a few reports of little, I don't know if they're organic or inorganic, but just almost like a tiny little metallic ball that just comes into the room and hovers and just kind of watches you. And sometimes there are reports of these maybe an orb coming into the room and then scattering and then light going around you. So there is definitely a lot of people having experiences with lights, whether they come out from the floor or whether they come from the ceiling or from the window. They seem to be coming from a variety of different directions. So what are these lights for, and what do they do? Well, some people claim that after the light passed over them, they were healed of something, or they instantly felt better, or they were completely knocked out. They don't remember anything that happened. When I saw it, I actually saw it scanning my ex-boyfriend. When I had my experience with the two exes, my boyfriend then was Patrick. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I looked over and there was one of those light beings that I described to you earlier standing right next to him, and he was having a full body scan where just his light was going up and down and up and down and up and down. And I said something to him the next morning, and his response was, "Were you dreaming?" And I said, "No, I was not dreaming, because my head was completely up off the pillow. When I see strange things, I always make my head get up off the pillow. I blink a million times. I pinch myself. I was totally awake."
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. Were there a lot of sounds associated with experiences, like pool balls hitting each other or some kind of tapping noise?
No, I usually do not hear anything about sounds. I usually hear about lack of sound, like when the triangular craft hovered over that witness and it was completely silent, or when I was a little girl, my first conscious memories are of this spaceship that visited me for 2 years. And there was this being that would come out of it. And I loved this being. To me, he was like my brother. And I was so happy to see him. And I'd be outside and his ship would come over my head. Like, that's all I could see. I couldn't see anything but the bottom of the ship. And that was completely silent. So there's more talk about lack of noise than noise from the stories that have been shared with me.
Okay, so do abductions or contacts happen more in the evening, in the nighttime when the sun is down, than they do during the day? Perhaps the sunlight kind of ruins their light.
That's a good question. When we talk about the interdimensional ET contact, in order to remember that or consciously be aware of that, we have to be in a really, really relaxed state. And that's why a lot of times these things happen in the evening, because we're in a really, really relaxed state. But let's also remember that ET contact happens 24/7. It happens when you're awake. It happens when you're just washing the dishes or doing house cleaning or whatever. It can happen at any time. Some people are able to get into that really relaxed state in the middle of the day, and they can make contact and be aware of it and be conscious of it. Most people cannot let themselves go during the day that much to be really aware of what's happening in the other dimensions around them, and some people can. As far as the ET itself, choosing itself whether it's going to come during the day or during the night, I believe that's very, very individual on the person that they're going to visit. Some people will not see an ET during the day because they're just not looking, they're just not concentrating, they're just not there. But some people will, because they're tuned in. Their spidey senses go off. But the contact's happening any time of the day.
Okay, I want to ask one more question. I'm going to throw it over to Jared for a minute. Why are some of the experiences people that are having, why are they so violent? And some people have pleasant experiences. Is it a different species that is violent with the human race compared to another, or are people just not remembering things correctly, or what's the deal with that?
That's a terrific question, and I really like this topic. I like to talk about it a lot. In fact, I talk about it recently with Kathleen Martin, and because of my personal experience, the transformation, my personal transformation, how I used to view the Greys as being horrible and evil, and they were victimizing me, and now have completely changed my mind. And back when I thought they were victimizing me and they were evil and they were mean and they were bad, they never really did anything bad to me except to scare the hell out of me, put a red X on my ass, and then, cut a triangle out of my back and leave bruises and other stuff on my body. But I've never had a horrible, scary experience with them, but yet I was thinking they were horrible and scary and evil. And that was because that was my viewpoint. I had adopted for most of my life the viewpoint of being a victim. My ex-husband was abusive. The husband before that was abusive. I chose to be the victim, and I was a fantastic victim. So that was my lens, and that's how I perceived my ET contact. Through my self-exploration, going back into those deep, dark recesses that are not easy or fun, I let go of that victim vibe, and then I was able to see how much they were helping me and how much they continue to help me. So it does have a lot to do with your perception of just life in general. I have also heard that there is a reptilian race that tends to be a little more aggressive. There's a variety of different reptilian races. I've heard there's one that's more aggressive. I have made contact with a reptilian, but the one I came in contact with was nice. And I also know experiencers who used to describe their story as a horrible, horrific story, and now over the course of a few years, and they've changed, and their perspective on life has changed. Now they can see that there was also a lot of beauty in these experiences. There was a lot of fascinating, very, very profound information in these experiences, information that can make your life better.
So you could have just been talking to the, I guess, the ambassador reptilian. The ambassadors are always nice, right?
I didn't even think of that. Maybe.
So, what did they say, that the reptilians? What did he say to you? Like what kind of conversation is that?
Okay, it was telepathic, and it was in the corner of my living room, and then it jumped onto the couch where I was sitting, and I was very afraid of it. And it was very beautiful. I would say it wasn't very big. It just was not very big. It was 6 feet or less, and it had scales, and the scales were gorgeous. They were iridescent. And it had what do you call it? A crest? I don't know what you call it, going down the middle of the top of its head. And it jumped on the couch, and I looked at it, and I said, "Are you going to hurt me?" And it telepathically said no. And I said, "Do you have my best interests at heart?" And it telepathically said, "Yes, I am here to help you." And then that's all I remember. I don't know what happened after that. But it's clear as day. I'll never forget it. And the feeling I had after I got over the fear was, oh, I am safe. I feel really good. I didn't get a bad vibe from it. The reason I was so scared, because I was just confronted with something I don't know, and we tend to just get scared when we're confronted with things that we don't know. That's the only reptilian experience I've had. I have had stories from other experiencers with reptilians which are horrible. They're horrible. They're just disgusting. I have not had any of those. Have either of you had experiences with the reptilians?
I had an experience with something. I couldn't say what it was. What I remember seeing was mostly like, it just seemed like I was seeing shadows. Do you get that a lot?
Oh, yes, the black shadow. Yes, I've seen that too. A lot of people do see those. And there's also astral men in black. And I had an experience with an astral men in black. I had a friend come stay with me for a week. This was back in December 2019. And we have our posse. We have our angels, we have our spirit guides, we have all our interdimensional entities around us, and wherever we go with them. So she brought her beings with her, and in the middle of the night, I awakened to this very tall, very black being, just like 2 feet from my bed. And it had a hat, like a fedora hat. It had on a black suit, but I could just see the outlines of all these things, and it was pretty tall. And it was not pleasant. I did not like it at all. I felt its energy leave it and enter me. And when it entered me, it felt like it was trying to suck all of my energy right out of me. And I had to put up an energetic fight. And I told it, well, you're not going to win. You just have to go, because you just have to go. And it said, no, I'm not going. I'm like, well, I don't have the food that you need. And the food that you need is fear, and I don't have it. So you can either stick around and starve, or you're going to go to someone else and feed off of them, because I don't have it for you, and you're not going to win. This is not going to work. And there was a little bit of a battle, I'm telling you, and it ended and he left. After that, I realized, wow, man, it is really easy for people who don't know that they're in control to have completely been swept up in that energy and I don't know what it feels like to have all your energy sucked out of you, but I can see how people would have completely given in to them because it was powerful. And this being belonged to my friend. My friend all of a sudden started going down this whole path of conspiracy theories and this and that and fear. And she brought this astral men in black to me because they suck on to fear.
Yeah, the experience I had was not very pleasant. I think I talked about it in an episode with Dave Scott once, but it was not a good experience. It was very violent, and I guess I don't talk about it too much, but it definitely got me started on the subject.
Your experience, Michael, your experience with the reptilian or with the men in black?
Whatever the shadow beings were. I was like in my bed, and then I wasn't in my bed. I was somewhere else and experiencing this horrible experience. And then I was put back in my bed later. Jared, I'm getting a really bad feedback from you. Your mic just sounds like it's really loud or something, or it's just...
Can you hear anything right now?
I can hear you.
Can you hear anything else?
No, see, when you talk, it stops.
So right now, okay, it's not going on, and now I'm going to stop talking.
Okay, so it's still not going on. Sev, so the men in black, can they just, like, can they do the same things that the Greys can, kind of dematerialize you and materialize you somewhere else?
I do not know that. This Men in Black did not do that to me, and I haven't heard any stories about Men in Black doing that. If anyone has had an experience like that, I'd like to hear about it. But from my experiences, the Astral Men in Black, not the 3D Men in Black, but the Astral Men in Black and the Greys are very, very, very different, like completely different.
Yeah. Well, whatever it was, whatever it was, I have a feeling it wasn't human.
Mm-hmm.
So KDB wants to know why you think you keep having all these different ETs come visit with you. Have you ever asked any one of these ETs why they coming to you?
I have not asked point blank, why are you coming to me? Because going back to what I said earlier about sometimes you just have a knowing, and the knowing, it came from the Blues when I was talking with the Blues when they came into my living room and they gave me information about Tchaikovsky and Tesla and Disney. The love that was coming from them and the things that they said made me feel so good, so loved. And the love it's hard to describe. The best way I can describe it right now is to say it's deeper than the love that you feel from your mother. It's beyond that. And I believe that they're not just coming to me, they're coming to everybody who seeks peace, fulfillment, a life of authenticity. We're here, so let's make the most of it and let's live as peacefully as possible. And these entities come to people who are yearning for, or who are searching for that internal peace, because we have to achieve peace individually in order for us to achieve it collectively.
All right, Jared, I would imagine you're still there. That feedback's back, so I guess we're going to have to not let you go so long without talking. I have one more question, and then I'll pass it off to you for a little bit. Sev, are you doing anything specifically to encourage these ET visits? Are you reaching out to them like on a daily basis, telepathically, or anything like that?
Yes, it's constantly. It's 24/7. So it's not just what we call the extraterrestrial, the ET, the gray or the blue or the Nordic. There's other beings too. There's some, as we talked earlier, there's so many different consciousnesses that you can tap into, an individual consciousness, a collective consciousness. So I'm open 24/7.
Okay. Jared?
Yeah, okay. So just quick, do you hear it? Is it on still?
No, see, it goes away as soon as you start talking. It's like you have some kind of automatic mic that if you stop talking, like it listens closer and closer and closer until it gets something.
I think we've just established with live witnesses that apparently Jared needs to talk more. I know that's because I talk too much. So, we co-host this show together. It's super fun. We've been doing this for a while, and I've been a researcher and explorer for a while. One of the questions you asked earlier, and Michael got the best of this. The first time I ever went to contact in the desert, which was a couple years ago. So, of course, we'll just pretend this Orwellian bad sci-fi novel we're in is not happening. And then, so there were two contacts, and one was still at Joshua Tree. So I'm referring to the one at Joshua Tree. And I ended up at Big Rock, and I saw people always ask, have you ever seen a UFO or anything? And I actually, despite all the shows I do monthly, I actually don't actually talk about this all the time. I just take it for granted, having worked with Alex Hoffman of Hoffman Optics, who supplies the military-grade night vision goggles. I was out at Big Rock and saw the triangular UFOs, and not one or two, but like basically squads of them, like 3 to 5 of them in formations. They were never close to me. So when I say the triangle-shaped UFOs, I just wanted you to know that I definitely knew they had the 3 lights on them. They were definitely the triangle ones, but they were never like right overhead. But we hung out I had zero expectation of seeing anything. And we hung out there for 3.5 hours, and it's finally like, okay, have you seen enough of the UFOs? And we're like, yeah. And so I've never met or seen a reptilian, but yeah, I'm like, wow, I've just spent a whole evening watching unidentified objects blink across the night sky by 20, 30, 50, maybe 100 miles and back. And that's the closest I've come.
Wow.
I haven't interacted with anyone individually, but I know you asked that earlier. I just wanted to answer that question for you quick.
Well, they made themselves known to you. So do you think really that this is the only contact you've ever made, or do you think you have some subconscious memories?
No, I mean, I've always, every now and then I have friends that, I have a couple good friends that are psychologists, but I do ask the question. It's like I am one of those people for years who had reoccurring dreams, and they were annual and biannual, essentially. I never kept track until it kept happening, and I realized, wow, I'm having reoccurring, like I have a couple reoccurring dreams that happen regularly, and is very, that part was interesting to me. But I've never had an interaction with anything that I would have considered paranormal or spiritual or
That
I
you
don't
remember.
Well, no, but yeah, I don't feel like I've had anything else that's happened, and the flight patterns and what I saw was very interesting. And then it wasn't until the following year when I was able to work with Alex Hoffman and Hoffman Optics, where I was able to sit there with Alex and put on the latest next gen night vision goggles with over 90,000 looms that are, I'm looking up into space. And it is, for anyone out there, I guess, again, something else I don't talk about. I don't know why, actually, but it is one hell of a thing to actually get out and just look at the night sky. Even if you see clouds, these night vision goggles, these military grade night vision goggles, when you lay back, I mean, I think new, they're like $3,000 to $8,000. And I got to look through a bunch of different ones, and it's basically a freeway up there. There's and once you sort out bats, moths, hawks, birds, satellites, and everything else, the reality is that there is a crap load of unexplainable traffic in the air, way up there.
Yeah, that's really cool that you saw that. I have not had that experience. I haven't looked through those night goggles or seen anything like that before. I would like to. That's really tremendous. And also, one other thing, Jared, you had said something much earlier that I find really intriguing and fascinating. And you were talking about consciousness and memories, and are they us in the future? Are they us in the past? Are we just remembering something? Is it synesthesia? All of that stuff. Those are all marvelous questions, and it could be all those things. And I'm fascinated with all that too. So I don't really like to speak with absolute certainty. I can just tell you what I've experienced and what I've been told and what I felt and how my life has changed. But yes, there's still lots of questions as to really exactly what is happening. And ultimately, do we need to know exactly what's going on? I mean, we might not find out, and do we really need to know? I personally think that it's wonderful to talk about this because as human beings on Earth, many of us are just searching for happiness because we're so disconnected. And so if we can talk about ETs and what ETs told us and information that other beings gave us about loving ourselves and self-empowerment and losing the victim vibe and all these other things that really help us to live a much more peaceful and fulfilled life, well, that's good enough for me. And I don't need to know the answers to all of it because really, really what we're focusing on right now is just trying to make the human experience better, trying to make the human experience more peaceful and more loving. And all of this conversation, in my opinion, that's my intent, is to lead in that direction. So whether we know for sure if it's a real ET or whether it's a past memory or if it's a hologram or all that, fantastic, really, really enjoyable to talk about. Ultimately, in my opinion, I don't need to know the answer, because I am really focused on loving as much as possible, loving myself as much as possible, and then loving everyone else as much as possible. That's really what's going to make this transformation that we're all seeking individually and collectively. So the messages that are coming through to us, whether they're angels, whether they're God, whether they're Jesus, whether they're ET, it really doesn't matter to me what the being is. I'm just really interested in the message and how that message transforms the person.
Jared, what are you doing there? Are you shaking up a Tic Tac canister or something?
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't realize I turned my mic back on because I was going to participate in a second. I realized my mic's hot.
Yeah, you were like, what were you shaking up? There's a big discussion going on in the chat room now, wondering what you were shaking.
Oh, you guys are going to love this. It's Earl's white popcorn.
What is it not? Is it kernels?
No, it's the bag. Here we go. Everybody listen. That is Jared getting to the bottom of a bag of Earl's popcorn that I ate happily while I drank some whiskey 2 nights ago.
Your mute button does not work, mister.
Well, the thing is that I turned it off because I was so busy listening to what we were talking about, and I was so interested. I'm like, well, I got to eat some popcorn. And then I'm realizing that I had hit my live on the mic. Usually I mute it now because, of course, for some reason, now that we're doing an interview, I sit in a studio that's right off of 30 feet away. There are train tracks. It's part of the main rail yards for Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh.
And usually you get the ding, 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 and then a loud freight train coming by. And instead, for everyone listening, wah, 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 it's just Earl's Popcorn, who is awesome. Not a sponsor of the show yet.
Earl's Popcorn, everybody. Get yourself a bag.
I did hear a train go by earlier.
Yeah, it's really fun. You know what's really fun is when you're sitting here and so the main rail yards in Minneapolis, St. Paul, this is a lot of people who don't know the Continental Railroad that connected our world, the United States, was done by James J. Hill. James J. Hill is a Minnesotan, and he is the last home on Summit Avenue, which is one of the 3 oldest intact pre-1900 avenues in our country, and his mansion is right across the street from our cathedral, towering way over the United States, or the Minnesota Capitol, which was the largest unsupported dome in the world for a long time. But the Continental Railroad having been completed by James J. Hill, we have really, really, really big rail yards in the reason Minneapolis, St. Paul is called the Twin Cities is because the 2 cities are only 9 miles apart, basically, and they're not really apart. I'm really just living in a 7-county metro area with half the state living in these 7 counties, which is really just one giant suburb and city. But it's a 9-mile-long rail yard with up to 50 or more tracks wide. There is, it varies. It's like, if you like trains, you should come to Minnesota. But the kind of stuff that passes by here, including military, like tanks and I don't know where, we have a number of forts here between bases between Minnesota and of course, Camp Douglas. And so I will be sitting here on interviews or either hosting or doing them. And suddenly 50 tanks, a whole bunch of armored personnel carriers, LRTs, you name it, will go by like it's a kid's military train set. And you're like, boy, are they going east or west? And then you start thinking about where's all that going? So it's quite an adventure.
Well, they're not going up into space, so the aliens fear not.
They're not multi-dimensional tanks. Or are they?
All right, well, let me ask some of these questions that we're getting in for Sev. Miss Gem wants to know, do different types of aliens communicate with each other? And if so, have you ever talked to any different species at the same time?
Oh, different species at the same time.
Stop with the popcorn, Jared.
Oh, son of a bitch. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Shoot.
Okay, to answer the question, and thank you for the questions. I'm just so grateful that everyone who's listening and asking questions. I, from what I can remember, I have only interacted with one type of ET at a time. However, experiencers tell me that there's some common couplings. The Greys with the Mantis beings, Greys with Nordic beings. Those seem to be a couple of the most popular couplings that experiencers have told me about.
Okay, and Apex wants to know, is there a way we at home could contact them ourselves?
Yes, and I do encourage people to do this, but keeping in mind, you got to pay attention to the energy that you are radiating. And in fact, on my YouTube channel, Alien Spirit TV, I have a 3-part series about how to make contact with an ET, how to make contact with a spirit guide, how to make contact with other beings. And at the end of each episode, I do a guided meditation with you. To music, and a lot of people have written me with success. They have made contact with ETs, or they made contact with a dead one, or they made contact with spirit guides or with other beings. So absolutely you can do it. It takes practice and also being in a very relaxed state. So that's why I created this series. So when you, the beginning of each episode is information to help you raise your frequency. The whole point of why I'm doing these videos and the writings and the talkings and everything that I do is to help people raise their frequency. And when you raise your frequency, then you can hear, feel, and see interdimensional information a lot easier.
Do you think the human race is in fact ascending?
I personally do not.
No? Well, that's
No,
a
I
bummer.
personally do not. I don't. It's quite possible we have descended from another type of race. Descending meaning, are you saying that our intellect is decreasing? Is that what you're meaning?
No, is our frequency rising? Are we rising as a human species?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Some of us are and some of us aren't. There's many of us who are and many of us who aren't, and that's been made very, very clear lately. We can see where we're butting heads with other groups of people. So yes and no.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're looking at about 12 minutes left. I want to get into a little bit about, well, you're a medium, right? You talk to people who have crossed over?
Yes.
Is that a process? Or does it come and go? Do you have a choice? Like who you talk to?
Well, I like that question because when I first started realizing that I had access to beings in the other dimensions, it came through dead people, and I used to do dead people readings, but I don't do them anymore for a couple of reasons. First, you can't always get someone's dead grandmother. Another relative or another friend or another loved one will come through, but you can't always get that one person. And I just don't want to make the promise. I don't want someone to come in for a session with hopes that they're going to meet their grandmother, and it might not happen, and then I just don't want them to be disappointed like that. Other beings will come through, and it'll still be a really good session, but I just don't want to do that. The other thing is, communicating with dead people is a different energy. So in a soul session, I'm operating in a really high frequency, and I'm dealing with people's spirit guides, my spirit guides, hearing, feeling, seeing information from the multi-dimensions. And then all of a sudden in the middle of the reading, someone's like, I want to talk to dead Aunt Claire. I literally feel a sensation in my body where like there's a drop in frequency. It's like a roller coaster. Instantly, zoom. I drop in frequency to talk to the dead person. And then they want to go back again and talk about their life purpose. And then, like a roller coaster, then I zip up to a higher frequency. And I don't like that roller coaster. For me, this is a very personal experience. I don't like that roller coaster frequency. So I've decided that I don't intentionally do dead people readings, but if a dead person shows up in someone's session, I will absolutely, of course, mention it. There was one time, do we have time for a quick?
Yeah, of course.
Story?
As soon as we have to wait, we have to let Jared say something so his mic calms back down again.
Okay, Tag, you can talk.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead, Seth.
Okay. Okay, thank you. In a session, I was talking to the lady, and in the corner of a room, there was this very tall being, a human, kind of ghost-like, kind of, very tall, wearing a hat. And I said to her, there's a very tall man here wearing a hat. And she said, I don't know who that is. And I said, Mimi. And she said, Mimi? Mimi was my best friend when I was a little girl, and her dad died, and her dad always wore a hat. That's Mimi's dad. So what's the message for Mimi's dad? The message was, contact Mimi. And so she was stunned. She's like, I can't believe, how would you even know about Mimi? So she contacted Mimi, and Mimi was dying. So she was able to say goodbye to her childhood friend. So those kind of things do happen in readings. I don't force them. I just allow them to happen. But I can't promise that they'll happen in a session either.
Yeah. So you have to get yourself into that place. Do you hear a high frequency in your head at all? And if so, what is it?
Yes, all the time.
Is it like your ears ringing?
I hear it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm really sorry about this delay. I can always hear a frequency, and that's always changes. The pitches change according to what room I go in, what building I go in, whose house I go in, or if I'm meditating, or if I'm very aware of a being in my room, the frequency will change. 4 days after my father died, he visited me in my living room, and I was sitting in my living room with my cats, and all of a sudden I started to see the energy. I had just come back from Hawaii, and I had placed a whole bunch of shells and things on the table, and I'm looking at them, and they were like on fire. Like I could see the energy coming out of them like fire. And then I heard a really high frequency pitch in my ears that kept going higher and higher and higher and higher. And then in the room, I could see the energy like static. And I turned to the cats and I'm like, what is going on? Something's going on. And then at that very moment, my dad appeared as this big, blue, swirling light energy. So there is like a warning that something is happening, or someone's there, or something's going to happen. And I hear this a lot with people who see UFOs. They say things like, well, I went outside and I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear a bug. There was no wind. It was a really, really clear day. It was like there was nothing, like complete silence. It was bizarre. And then I saw the UFO. So there's some type of electrical charge or some kind of transformation or change to the atmosphere often when we come in contact with these other beings.
Okay. Jared, how are you? How are you doing? I gotta get you talking to calm your mic down again.
I'm glad that's the reason I'm participating.
Well, I guess I guess I had one more question, but go ahead, Jared. You got
No, no,
something?
you know that I've already talked now, so I'm sure I can be silent. Go for it.
Okay, so Lee says he has a very high frequency in his head all the time, and it's not tinnitus. Isn't it like I've heard when you're hearing like ringing in your ears, so to speak, that you're really taking a download.
Oh, very possible. Taking a download, absolutely. Or just hearing the energy change in your room, maybe because another being came into it, or maybe just because your frequency changed. I mean, there's so many different reasons why the frequency in a room would change, or why you would hear different pitches in your ears. But absolutely, that could be a sign of a download of ET communication. And it doesn't have to be just from a particular being, it could be from a collective consciousness.
Yeah, or from
Because
the.
sometimes I get messages where, oh, you did. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what
I
you
was
said,
just
but
gonna
were you in
say from
agreement
the
with that?
Aztec records.
Hmm. Yes, 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 absolutely. That information that floats around us that we can all tap into. Information and knowledge has a frequency to it. And when we align with the frequency of that information or that knowledge, we know it. And sometimes we call those aha moments, as if we just figured something out. But that knowledge and that information was inside of us the whole time. We just weren't consciously aware of it because we were not aligned with the energy of that knowledge. And when we are aligned with that energy of the knowledge, all of a sudden, that's like an instant download. It's like, aha, I know something. It was inside of you the whole time. So everything has a frequency. Everything is energy. And it's all about aligning, getting your energy to be similar to the energy of what you want, vice versa, all of that. It's just, if you look at everything in terms of energy, actually, I really do think that it makes being a human a little easier, because then you're concentrating on energy. What's my energy? How can I tweak my energy? And that is how you, as we like to say in the coaching world, that's all about self-empowerment.
Okay. And that was Lee Palace who was asking that question there. Just want to give a shout out to Persia
Thank you.
Princess. She says hello. Good Hazard. Yep, we are live. How you doing? And Tony Franson is still here. He's been listening the entire show. Jared, whatever you did to your mic, it worked.
As of you seriously, like right now,
Yeah. Yeah, like it's totally like you fixed it.
I had muted my mic, and apparently it wasn't really muted, so I just threw back on the live button, and so I have no idea why. This
Yeah.
is just the weirdest thing. We've never had this problem before for everyone listening. It's just,
Yeah. Tony Fradston says it's still our best episode yet.
yeah, thanks, Tony. You funny guy.
And Miss Jem says it's not a ringing but a high pitched sound, and I agree it
Oh.
varies depending on who or what is trying to make contact.
That, or if any of you out there can hear
Yes.
this, sit, stay, good dog.
Sev, I
You
want to
know,
ask you.
I love talking about animals, and I love talking about communicating with animals. And I have lots of stories about communicating with animals through the multi-dimensions and through my dreams and things like that. I love that you mentioned animals, because they have a major role in all of this too. And the more that we communicate with the animals multidimensionally, the more compassionate we're going to become towards them.
Yeah, I have a dove that is nesting on my back porch, and I've been sitting out there with it during the day trying to communicate with it through my mind. Do I just have to think what I want the dove to hear me? Right? I just have to think what I want it to hear?
Well, that's really cute that you're communicating with a dove. So what I do with my animals, and it works, is I send them a mental image of what I want them to do or what I'm thinking of. It's like a picture, like a snapshot picture. I send them a mental image of that. I don't know if that works for birds, but that's what I do with dogs and cats. And well, for instance, I did talk with a squirrel and I asked it what its name was, and it sent me a mental image of a leaf. So I decided to name the squirrel Leaf. So these mental imaging can go back and forth. So maybe the next time you're talking to the dove, you can send it the mental image of, I don't know, what mental image would you like to send it?
That I'm not trying to harm its little nest, I suppose. What kind of image would that
Oh,
be?
okay.
I want her to know that
Well,
she's safe.
oh, okay. That's really sweet. So you could send the mental image of you just sitting there and you just literally sitting there. So she knows that you just sit there, that you're not actually going to touch her. The other thing I do also, and animals are so receptive to this, is that you radiate energy out of your heart. Like you really concentrate to send energy out of your heart, and they can see that, they can feel that. So I would suggest that too.
Huh, cool. All right, and I want to ask you one more question, and I'll turn it over to Jared to ask you, if he can finish up. And I wanted to ask you, have you ever had communication with any higher intelligence species that is perhaps human, and maybe part of a secret advanced civilization that's hiding out here on Earth?
Yes. My first conscious memories when I was 10, and a spaceship visited me for 2 years, and the being that came out looked like a human. It's the only difference being its ears were just slightly different, just a little more oval in shape, but everything else about the guy looked human. It wasn't very masculine, so it was a little more androgynous looking, but it was more manly than woman. So that's the experience that I've had.
All right, Jared,
Yeah.
you have any questions before we
Oh, we
wrap
gotta
up?
go. Well, we got to go back to you said you had lots of stories about animals. You got to pick a top one and tell us.
Okay. All right. So I have a black cat named Zulu, and I first saw her when I was 10 years old, and I did an astral travel. And in my astral travel, when I was 10 years old, I saw her face. And when I came to, I knew that one day I would have a black cat. So fast forward 40 years later, for 40 years, I knew that I was going to have this very special black cat. And one night I had a dream where this black kitten came to me with light coming out of its eyes, and I picked it up and I said, I'm going to take you home. And this black kitten had a white hair. It had a few white hairs placed along its body. So I called my girlfriend the next day and I said, I think I'm going to get that black cat because it came to me in my dream. And she called me the next day and she said, I have that black cat. I'm at the nursery and they're giving away these free kittens and there's only one left and it's black. And I said, okay, it's mine, take it, I'll come and get it. And I saw the cat and it had the same exact white hairs in the same exact place that I saw in this dream. It was also the cat that I saw when I was 10. There was another time with this cat where I was sleeping, and in my dream, she was locked in a closet. So I woke up, and I called for her, and she didn't come. And I knew exactly where she was. She was in the closet. I knew which closet out of all the closets, because I saw it in my dream. I get out of bed. I go downstairs. I go straight to the closet. I open it up. She comes out, meow, meow. And she talked to me in my dream. She told me she was stuck in the closet in my dream.
Uh-huh. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
Michael, you
and
don't
we
like
can
cats.
all do this.
I don't like cats. I have 2 cats.
I thought that was a good setup. You know, I get popcorn credit this time, but I can tell you we've had at least 2 interviews where his cats will not leave his keyboard alone while we're doing interviews.
No, I know. I know. I put him in the.
Oh.
I put him in the bedroom now and shut the door. It got really bad. He started walking all over the soundboard. It was like, yeah, I can't have that happening. It's just a little kitten.
Well, you might not like them, but they love you. It's a kitten.
Yeah. He thinks I'm his mother. He always tries
Aw.
to breastfeed on my neck.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I guess, you know,
Do you like it?
doing the suckle thing. No, I can't stand it. And he's almost full grown now, so it actually kind of hurts to wake up in the middle of the night and he's like.
That's unusual. I
it's the
haven't heard that
weirdest
before
thing.
of a cat sucking on someone's neck.
No, I Googled it. It's a thing apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Your neck?
Yeah. I guess we got him too young, like before his mother was able to wean him fully. Apparently, that's what they do.
Hmm.
But he's a cutie.
Oh, okay.
My wife loves it. It's the only time he purrs. All right.
When he's sucking your neck?
Yeah. So weirdest thing.
You
It's
have a
such
very special relationship with this kitty.
Yeah, it's a strange cat, I'll tell you. He's strange. Well, I guess.
Hey, have any of these animals shown up during any of these visits with I don't know, any of the have animals ever shown up?
Oh, yes. I have had an experience where I drew pictures of it. I have a video of it on my YouTube channel, and I include the pictures that I drew of this little white being that glowed like a light bulb. It was very small, and accompanying it was a white dog. And this white dog, its skin was very, very transparent, so I could kind of like see the veins under it. And when I popped out of this experience, when I came back to 3D reality, shortly after that, I listened to Chris Bledsoe's recounting of what happened to him. You guys know Chris Bledsoe?
Do we?
I don't know.
No. You don't? Okay. Well, he's a well-known experiencer, also here in North Carolina. We've talked many times. And then I listened to one of his videos of a talk that he gave, and he too saw this four-legged being. And what he was told and what I was told were the same thing, but and we were told that these four-legged beings were the juvenile versions of the white glowy beings, which were a younger version of these tall blue beings.
Well,
that's pretty interesting. You know, there's all kinds of things out there I think that we're never going to really have the full explanation of. As much as all this disclosure and everything that starts coming out, there's so much that we're just never going to know. I guess that's what makes life fun.
I agree. Yes, and it's okay. It's okay if we don't know.
All right, well, I guess we're going to wrap it up. Sev Tok, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Thank you so much. The website is planetsev.com. I called it Planet Sev because there's actually a planet and a star system named after me in Star Wars, the planet and star system Sev Tok. And I also named it Planet Sev because I see each individual as their own unique planet. And I have the YouTube channel, Alien Spirit TV. I also have a newsletter that you can sign on to through my website. My book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, is on Amazon. I also have a blog, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Pretty easy to find.
All right, awesome. And Jared, whatever you did to your microphone, it made it sound like crap again.
Interesting. I'm very interested, and I think it's my computer actually. No.
Yeah, you got to get a new one.
Oh, you know what? If anyone wants to go ahead and put that super chat in for like 1879.36, that'd be great. And then we will have a new computer. But until then, Conflict and I, Jared Murphy at notaliens.com, we will be at America's Stonehenge May 1st, Saturday. I will be giving a lecture in the morning, not just about America's Stonehenge, but about our mysterious planet. And so if you want to join up for that, there are $10 tickets and $30 tickets. One gives you 6 months on notaliens.com member area, plus the ticket for the show. Of course, for $10, you can get a ticket. We'll send out the Zoom links before the show. You can come walk America's Stonehenge with Michael and I on Saturday, May 1st. This is coming up in just a few weeks, guys. So if you would like to meet us in person, otherwise, you can join at least my virtual ticket. You know, it's $10. It's on notaliens.com, and you can certainly we'll have follow-up video, and we're Conflict. You know, we'll be doing a show from America's Stonehenge, and on Dark Hour Paranormal with Michael, we will be doing other Michael, and we'll be doing a show from there too. So either way, America's Stonehenge, May 1st, folks.
Yeah, and make sure you check out notaliens.com and the Not Aliens YouTube channel. All of Sev Tok's links will be in the description box below. Definitely go check it out and subscribe to her channel. Remember, you can always find us online. Just go to www.conflictradio.net. Be sure to check out the store, either on the website or in YouTube, and check out some of our cool t-shirts, hoodies, and whatnot. There's some pretty neat stuff there. I've actually ordered quite a bit, and Spartan, I got yours. It's on the way. I guess, until next time, batten down the hatches and be safe. All right, we're clear.